I found the foreclosure notice taped to my front door on a Tuesday morning. At first, I thought someone had made a mistake because I had never missed a payment, never received a warning, never had a problem with the HOA. So I picked it up, looked at it, and honestly, I almost threw it away. Then, 2 days later, another notice showed up, then another, then photographs, then violation records. And by the time I called the county office, someone had already placed a lien on my house. The strange part? The paperwork listed an address that looked almost identical to mine. Almost. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at the paper on the counter, not because I was scared, because I was annoyed. I had only lived in Maple Glen Estates for 8 months. 8! I barely knew anyone there, and as far as I knew, nobody really knew me either. Honestly, I thought this would take one phone call, 30 seconds. Hi, wrong address, done. That was my entire plan. Then I noticed the red text across the top, Property Compliance Notice. And immediately, something felt off. Not because of the title, because of the wording underneath. Final Enforcement Review. Final. I remember reading that word twice, because you can't have a final warning if nobody ever gave you a first one. So I kept reading. The notice claimed I'd already received multiple HOA communications. Violation reminders, compliance notices, escalation attempts. I stopped, went back, read it again. Multiple? Escalation? Attempts? I hadn't received a single letter. No calls, no emails, nothing. Which meant one of two things. Either someone had skipped every step in the process, or those steps had never happened at all. For a second, I honestly wondered if someone else in the neighborhood had my name. It sounds stupid now, but I was trying to make the paperwork fit reality, because reality made more sense than this thing did. Then I reached the property section. Lot number, street, address. At first glance, everything looked correct. Everything. Until I looked one more time and saw a number I was absolutely sure wasn't mine. Not a different street, not a different neighborhood. 1 digit. Just 1. And at the time, I still thought that tiny mistake was about to solve everything. I had no idea it was actually the beginning. The strange thing is, I still wasn't scared. Annoyed? Definitely. Confused? Absolutely. But scared? Not yet. Because in my head, there were only 2 possibilities. Either someone had mixed up paperwork, or somebody in the HOA office had typed one wrong number. That was it. No conspiracy, no disaster, no legal nightmare. Just a stupid mistake. Honestly, I remember grabbing my phone and thinking, this is going to take 30 seconds. That was my exact thought. 30 seconds. Hi, I think somebody sent me the wrong notice. Oh wow, sorry about that. We'll fix it. Done. End of story. So I called the number printed at the bottom of the notice and immediately got voicemail. Not unusual. I barely reacted. People miss calls all the time. So I called again. Voicemail. Again? Voicemail. By the 4th call, I remember pulling the phone away from my ear and staring at it. Because now I wasn't annoyed anymore. Now I was curious. Because if you're mailing people final enforcement reviews, somebody should probably answer the phone, right? So I tried the HOA website, found a contact page, filled out the form, typed my address, added screenshots, uploaded photos of the notice, included the property number. Then I hit send. And for a while, nothing happened. No email confirmation, no automatic reply, nothing. Not even one of those useless messages that says, "We've received your request." Just nothing. I remember standing in my kitchen, staring at my phone, refreshing my inbox. Again, nothing. Again, nothing. Then I told myself to calm down, because normal people don't panic over paperwork. Normal people wait. So I waited. And honestly, for a while, I stopped thinking about it. Then, I opened my front door later that day and saw another envelope. I actually remember freezing. Not dramatically, not movie freezing. I just stopped moving for a second. Because one notice felt annoying. 2 notices felt intentional. And that immediately changed something. Because random mistakes don't usually repeat themselves. I picked it up, walked inside, set it on the counter, and stared at it. For a few seconds, I didn't even open it, because I already knew what I was expecting. Wrong file, wrong resident, wrong house, same mistake, same explanation. I opened it anyway, and immediately realized this one looked different. Different formatting, different wording, different tone. The first notice felt administrative. This one felt legal. There were internal references, case numbers, property summaries, violation categories, pages I didn't understand, sections I had never seen before. And near the middle, I found a sentence I still remember almost word for word. Previous attempts to resolve this matter have been unsuccessful. I actually laughed, out loud. Not because it was funny, because I genuinely thought, what attempts? Attempts with who? Nobody had called me, nobody emailed me, nobody left messages, nobody knocked on my door, nobody. So I went back, started reading slower, page by page, line by line, trying to understand where reality ended and whatever this was began. That's when I noticed the dates: communication date, reminder date, review date, inspection date, escalation date. There were more than I expected, way more. At first I thought I was reading it wrong, so I started over, again, then again. Because according to their own records, this process had apparently been happening for weeks. Weeks. I remember stopping right there, because I had only held the first notice in my hands yesterday. Yesterday. So how exactly was I suddenly weeks into some enforcement process? That didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Then I saw another section. Property observations completed. Then documentation attached. Then inspection records submitted. Inspection. I stared at that word. Inspection. Because according to these records, someone had apparently visited the property more than once. And that's when something changed. Because up until that moment, I still thought I was looking at a mistake. Now I wasn't sure what I was looking at. So I flipped to the property information page again. Lot number, street, address. And there it was. Same neighborhood, same street, same everything. Except that number. That one number. I stared at it for a long time. Because for the first time, I stopped asking, why are they contacting me? And started asking something much worse. Who exactly had they been trying to contact this entire time? I didn't sleep much after that. Not because I thought I was going to lose my house. Not yet. I still thought the whole thing would collapse the second an actual person looked at it. That was the problem. I needed an actual person. The next morning, I called again. Voicemail. So I called the management company number listed in the packet. Different number. Different greeting. Same result. Voicemail. Then I sent another email. This time, I didn't try to sound friendly. I kept it short. I wrote, "My name is Megan Carter. I live at 1486 Willow Creek Drive. Your notice appears to reference a different property. I have not received any previous communications. Please confirm immediately that no enforcement action is being taken against my home." I read it 3 times before sending it. Not because it was complicated, because I wanted every word to be impossible to misunderstand. Then I hit send and waited. 20 minutes later, I got a reply. Not from a person, from the portal. A login link. That was it. No apology, no explanation, just a link that said, "View your account." At first I was relieved. Finally, something I could check, something with records, something that would prove this wasn't mine. So I opened it, created the password, logged in, and the first thing I saw was my name. That made my stomach tighten. Because mistakes feel smaller when they don't know who you are. This one knew my name. Or at least it thought it did. The dashboard showed an account balance, a violation history, open enforcement actions, and a red banner across the top. Account under legal review. I stared at that for a second. Then I clicked the violation history. And that's when the entire thing got stranger. There were entries, a lot of them. Unapproved exterior storage, improper trash receptacle placement, dead landscaping, architectural modification without approval, late assessment fee, administrative processing fee, certified mailing fee, legal referral fee. The list kept going. And the more I read, the less sense it made. Because some of the violations were things I didn't even have. Exterior storage? I didn't own a shed. Dead landscaping? My front yard was handled by the community service. Architectural modification? I hadn't changed a doorknob. Then I saw one that made me stop completely. Unauthorized fence extension. I remember saying out loud, "What fence?" Because I didn't have a fence. Not a partial fence, not a new fence, not an old fence. Nothing. My backyard opened straight onto the drainage easement. There was no fence to extend. So now I wasn't just looking at a wrong number. I was looking at a whole different house. A house with a fence, a house with storage outside, a house that clearly wasn't mine. I clicked the account details. Owner name, mailing address, property address. The mailing address had my name. The property address had the wrong number. Same street, wrong house. And under that, there was another line. Primary contact updated. That line bothered me more than anything else on the page. Updated by who? When? From what? I clicked around, trying to find the original record. There wasn't one. No previous owner history, no correction note, no explanation. Just my name sitting inside an account that didn't belong to my property. Then the portal froze. I refreshed, logged back in, and suddenly a new document appeared under recent activity. A PDF, generated that same morning. I opened it, and for a few seconds, I honestly forgot to breathe. It was a ledger. Not a warning, not a friendly reminder, a ledger. Charges, fees, fines, late fees, administrative fees, legal fees, all stacked together like someone had been feeding the account for months. The balance wasn't huge at first glance. Then I scrolled and scrolled and found the total. $4,870. I remember staring at that number because it felt impossible. Not impossible like shocking, impossible like physically wrong. Like seeing your name on someone else's medical bill. You know it exists. You know you're looking at it, but your brain refuses to accept that it belongs anywhere near you. I downloaded everything. The notice, the ledger, the violation history, the account page, the property details, all of it. Then I called again. This time I left a voicemail. I said my name, my address, the account number. Then I said, "You have attached my name to a property account that is not mine. I need this corrected today." I tried to keep my voice calm. I really did. But by the end, I could hear it cracking. Not fear, frustration. The kind that shows up when nobody is listening and the system keeps moving anyway. An hour later, I got another email. This one finally had a human name at the bottom. Sandra Mills, Community Accounts Coordinator. The message was 3 sentences. 3. It said the association records showed the account was valid. It said all enforcement notices had been issued in accordance with the governing documents. And it said any further dispute should be submitted in writing. I read it once, then again. Then I laughed. Again. Because what did she think I had been doing? I had submitted it in writing. Twice. With screenshots. With addresses. With the wrong property number circled. So I replied immediately. I wrote, "This is not a dispute about a violation. This is a dispute about identity. You are associating my name with the wrong property. Please review the deed records and correct the account." I sent it. Then I waited. This time, the reply came faster. Almost too fast. Sandra wrote back, "Our records are based on association account data and prior management entries. County records are not used for enforcement review unless requested by council." I read that sentence maybe 10 times. County records are not used. That was the first moment I felt something close to fear. Because I had assumed the county record was the anchor, the thing that would end the argument, the official record, the deed, the ownership. But according to the person handling the account, they weren't even looking at it. They were enforcing from their own internal file, a file that already had my name in it. A file that already had fees in it. A file that already had legal review attached. And if that file was wrong, then every step after it was wrong too. I opened the county property search in another tab, typed in my address, 1486 Willow Creek Drive. My name appeared. Correct parcel, correct lot, correct house. Then I changed the last digit. 1488 Willow Creek Drive. Different parcel. Different lot. Different owner. And there it was. A fenced backyard. A storage structure. A pending exterior modification note from the prior year. I just sat there, looking back and forth between the 2 records. Mine, theirs. Mine, theirs. Same street. 1 digit apart. 2 different houses. 2 different owners. 1 account. My name. Their violations. And suddenly the question from the night before had an answer. Who had they been trying to contact? Apparently, me. For someone else's house. But before I could even figure out what to do with that, Another email came in. Subject line: final notice before legal referral. And this time, there was an attachment. A lien demand letter. I opened the attachment immediately. Not because I wanted to, because at that point, every new document felt like opening test results. You already know something is wrong. You just don't know how wrong. The first page had a legal header across the top. Not HOA branding, not community management formatting. A law office. Template law. That immediately made me sit down, because until then, everything still felt administrative, annoying, frustrating, fixable. This felt different. Attorneys don't usually enter the conversation at the beginning. They show up near the end. And according to the date on the document, apparently we were already near the end. I remember reading the first paragraph once, then again, then one more time, because my brain kept refusing to process what it said. The association had initiated pre-lien recovery procedures. Recovery. Such a harmless word. Recovery sounds like somebody helping you, not somebody preparing paperwork against your house. Then I kept reading. Outstanding balance. Escalation review. Legal referral. Enforcement timeline. And near the middle of the page, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Failure to resolve this matter may result in lien placement against the property. May result. I stared at that sentence, then looked back at the account, then the county record, then the address, because they still didn't match. Not completely. Not that number. That number again. Always that number. And suddenly, I had a thought I should have had much earlier. What if nobody had made a typo? Because a typo happens once. This had happened in notices, records, fees, portal accounts, inspection history, emails, and now a legal office. Too many systems already agreed with each other. Too many steps had already happened. Mistakes don't usually survive this long, right? So I opened county records again. Mine, theirs. Mine, theirs. Back and forth. Again. And that's when I noticed something I'd completely missed before. Not the address, not the lot, not the parcel. The mailing contact. Because for the first time, I noticed there was another line buried underneath. Previous correspondence address. I leaned closer, read it once, then again, and my stomach dropped. Because I recognized it. I had lived there years ago. I stared at that line for a few seconds, then read it again, then one more time, because I genuinely thought I had read it wrong. Previous correspondence address. Underneath it was an apartment address I hadn't seen in years. Apartment 204, Ridgeview Crossing. I just sat there, staring at it. Because out of everything I'd seen over the last 2 days, the notices, the violations, the legal review, the fees, that address bothered me more than anything else. Because that one was real. That one belonged to me. Years ago. Before Maple Glen. Before the house. Before any of this. And immediately my brain started doing what brains do when something makes no sense. Trying to force pieces together. Maybe I entered it somewhere. Maybe forwarding mail. Maybe old mortgage paperwork. Maybe some account transfer. Something. Anything. Because if my old apartment address somehow ended up attached to the file, then maybe this whole thing wasn't random. And honestly, that idea actually made me feel better. Because mistakes can be fixed. Systems have corrections. People review things. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. So I went back through everything. Not dramatically, not like some detective movie. I literally sat there opening pages one by one, scrolling, reading, looking for anything familiar. Anything. And eventually, I found it. Buried inside an old management notice. 3 years earlier, Maple Glen Estates had switched management companies. New resident portal, new software, new records. I almost skipped it. Then I noticed something underneath. Resident information imported from prior records. I stopped, went back, read it again. Imported. Prior records. Because suddenly, for the first time in days, something actually made sense. Not emotionally, mechanically. Because county ownership records and HOA databases aren't the same thing. County records determine ownership. HOA systems track resident information. Mailing addresses, contacts, account details, payment profiles. And if bad information had been imported years earlier, then every notice after that could have followed the same mistake. At first, I actually felt relieved, because finally, I had a theory that sounded real. Not some mystery, not some conspiracy. Just a mistake that kept moving through a system nobody checked. Then I had another thought, and this one felt worse. Because reminder letters are one thing, late notices are one thing, but legal review, lien procedures, attorney referrals, those aren't supposed to happen automatically, right? So I opened another tab, started searching. Not Facebook, not forums, actual Texas records. Because at that point, I wasn't trying to prove I was right anymore. I was trying to figure out whether an HOA could legally keep moving forward against the wrong property. That's when I found something I wish I'd seen earlier. Under Texas Property Code Chapter 209, associations are required to follow notice procedures before certain collection and enforcement actions move forward. Notice, opportunity to respond, specific process requirements. I remember staring at the screen for a few seconds, because one thought immediately hit me. How exactly was I supposed to respond to notices I never received? And more importantly, how do you legally follow a process if the process was happening to the wrong house? I sat back, looked at the screen, then looked back at the account. Because for the first time, this wasn't feeling like annoying paperwork anymore. Now it felt bigger. Because if they had really followed every step, that meant multiple people had looked at this file. Multiple notices, multiple reviews, multiple decisions. And somehow, nobody noticed. Then, my phone rang. Unknown number. I looked at it. Didn't move. After 2 days of silence, after voicemails, after emails, after nobody responding, suddenly, someone was calling. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times, then answered. Hello? There was a small hesitation on the other end, and then a woman's voice asked if I was Megan Carter. I sat up immediately. She told me she was looking at my account right at that moment. Then, nothing. Just the faint sound of keyboard clicks over the phone. A long, heavy silence. Until she finally spoke again. Her voice sounded completely different. Wait, she said. And then, this doesn't make any sense. For a second, I didn't say anything. Because after 2 days of silence, after voicemails, after emails, after legal notices, I genuinely wasn't expecting confusion. I was expecting resistance. I was expecting, "Ma'am, the records are correct." Or, "Please submit your dispute in writing." Or honestly, anything except silence. Because on the other end of the line, I could hear the rapid click of a keyboard. Then her voice trailed off. "Hold on," she muttered. More typing followed. An even longer delay. Then she asked, "Can you confirm your address for me?" I gave it to her immediately. 1486 Willow Creek Drive. There was another heavy quiet on the line. More typing. Then she spoke up. "And you're saying the notices reference 1488? "Yes." Another stretch of silence. And I remember something changing right there. Because for the first time since all this started, I wasn't explaining. I wasn't defending myself. I wasn't trying to convince somebody. Because suddenly, she sounded confused too. Then I heard papers shuffling on her desk. More keyboard sounds. "Okay, wait," she whispered. There was a long, tense gap. "I think I'm looking at 2 different records." I sat up immediately, because that sentence hit me harder than everything else. Not because it solved anything, because it meant I wasn't crazy. For 2 days, I had been staring at addresses, parcel numbers, screenshots, violation histories, trying to force reality to make sense. And now, for the first time, someone else was seeing it too. Then she asked if I could stay on the line, and I told her yes. After that, there was nothing. Just distant office sounds, muffled voices, the steady rhythm of typing, someone laughing somewhere far away, a printer running. I remember staring out the window while I waited. Rain still outside, neighborhood lights, normal houses, normal night. And somehow that made everything feel stranger. Because outside, everything looked completely normal. Meanwhile, I was sitting there listening to somebody investigate why my name had somehow attached itself to another person's legal file. Then she came back, and immediately, I knew something was wrong. Because people sound different when they come back with good news. She didn't. Not even close. She said, "Okay, I found the problem." I remember standing up immediately, because finally, an answer. Then she said, "Your resident profile and the property account were merged." Merged? I just stood there, because I had no idea what that meant. Merged? What does merged mean? Accounts merge, apps merge, companies merge. Not people, not houses. So I asked, "What does that mean?" She hesitated. "It looks like during a management transfer, resident contact information may have attached to the wrong property profile." May have. I swear, HOA people have a language, because somehow they always find a way to describe disaster like it's weather. May have attached. Like a sticker, like a receipt. Not legal notices, not lien letters, not enforcement actions. Attached. Then she kept talking, and honestly, I barely heard the next few seconds, because one thought immediately hit me. If the profile attached years ago, then how many people had looked at it since then? Collection staff, management staff, review staff, attorneys, inspection records, violation teams. How many? Because if multiple people touched that file, then multiple people missed it. Then I remembered something else. Texas. The search results. Texas Property Code Chapter 209. Notice procedures, collection process, opportunity to respond, steps, requirements. And suddenly one question hit me so hard, I interrupted her. I said, "Wait." The line went quiet. If the file was wrong, then why did legal review keep moving forward? There was no sound of typing, no quick answer, nothing at all. Then she stammered, She stopped completely, then added, "I don't know." A very long, cold silence followed. And honestly, that scared me more than anything else. Because mistakes happen. Wrong addresses happen. Bad imports happen. But systems are supposed to stop mistakes. That's literally their job. And if nobody knew why this kept moving, then suddenly this wasn't just one wrong account anymore. Now I was wondering how many steps had happened automatically. Then I heard papers moving again. More typing. Then she murmured, "Hold on." A long, suffocating drag of time went by. And then she gasped. "Oh no." I remember freezing, because nobody says, "Oh no," casually. Not customer service, not office staff, not people reading records. Then she said, "There's already a scheduled lien processing review attached to the account." I stopped breathing for a second, because I already knew what lien meant. I knew exactly what it meant. Then she kept talking, and somehow it got worse. And according to the notes, it was approved yesterday. I honestly thought I had misheard her. Approved. Yesterday. I stood there, holding my phone, completely still. Because my brain immediately started doing what it had been doing for 2 straight days, trying to fix the sentence, trying to make it smaller. Maybe she meant reviewed yesterday. Maybe updated yesterday. Maybe scheduled yesterday. Something harmless. Something normal. Because approved sounded final. Approved sounded like somebody looked at everything. Looked at the account, looked at the notices, looked at the legal review, and decided, "Yep, keep going." I swallowed and asked, "Approved for what exactly?" I heard the rapid click of her keyboard, then papers moving. Then finally, she spoke. "Lien processing review." I looked outside. Rain still falling. Same houses, same street, same neighborhood. And suddenly, one thought hit me. How close was this? Because for 2 days, I had been treating this like paperwork, a mistake, a system problem, something annoying. But mistakes don't get approved. People do. And if somebody approved this yesterday, that meant somebody approved it after the notices, after the account, after the legal review, after everything. Somebody touched that file recently, not years ago, yesterday. I interrupted her. "Wait, if this account merged years ago, then who approved it yesterday?" I heard her typing again, faster this time, then more typing. A few seconds later, she muttered something. Okay, I found the activity notes. I sat down immediately, because finally, an actual person, not imported records, not account history, actual activity. Then she started reading the log. Account reviewed, escalation confirmed, legal continuation approved. Then she stopped. I waited, because I knew there had to be more. Reviewed by... A few more keyboard clicks filled the line. And then she whispered, That's strange. My stomach dropped immediately, because every single time somebody said something was strange, things somehow got worse. What's strange? Then she said, "There's no reviewer listed." I didn't say anything, because honestly, what exactly do you say to that? Reviewed by nobody? Approved by nobody? That made absolutely no sense. Then I heard more typing. A few seconds later, she gasped. "Wait, no, that can't be right." Immediately, I stood back up, because now she didn't sound like an employee anymore. Now she sounded like a person. Then she said, "Megan." It was the first time she used my name. Not ma'am, not caller. Megan. I think this account was already moving before anyone actually reviewed it. I felt cold immediately, because I already knew what she meant. The system kept moving, not because somebody checked, because nobody checked. And suddenly, I remembered what I had read earlier. Texas Property Code Chapter 209, Notice Procedures, Opportunity to Respond, Specific Steps, an actual process. And one question immediately hit me. How exactly do you respond to a process that's moving by itself? Then she said something that completely stopped me. "Megan, I need to tell my supervisor about this, because I think there may be other accounts." Other accounts. Not another account. Accounts. Plural. And for the first time since this started, I stopped thinking about my house, because one thought immediately replaced everything. If this happened to me, how many other people never caught it? And honestly, I still think about that first notice, because if I had thrown it away, none of this would have happened. I would have never called, never checked the records, never found the wrong address. And somewhere inside a system I didn't even know existed, things would have just kept moving. So now, I actually want to ask you something. If that envelope had shown up on your door, would you have opened it? Let me know below. And if you ended up going down this entire rabbit hole with me tonight, stick around and subscribe, because stories like this are a lot more common than people think.